o'clock, so got it. Let's see if I can do it on my side as well. Okay, you're doing the cloud recording.
Oh, yes. You can.
Okay, so probably I can't do it double, but
I can.
maybe you can give me the link. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. Last week, I had completely forgotten about the Fukan Zazengi series. So, today I talk about Sawaki's To You. But those of you who wondered what has become out of the Fukan Zazengi, I had forgotten that I talked about that text before I went to Germany. And next week, I will continue with the Fukan Zazengi every second week, and then in 2 weeks and in 4 weeks, I will talk about Sawaki Roshi. But before I talk about Sawaki Roshi's quotes today, as always, let's sit first for a half an hour.
我们今天还是前面半个小时坐禅，然后今天讲泽木老师那本《To You》，然后我们还是像以前一样隔周讲普劝坐禅仪，所以今天的安排是前面30分钟坐禅，然后后面大家可以提问，然后一起读这本书《To You》。I don't know what this somebody.
Yeah, Britta is sharing her screen. Britta, maybe you can stop the sharing if you're hearing this.
I don't know how do you see.
It seems that we are seeing Britta's screen here.
Show new post on top left.
That's German, but not smart. Yeah, okay, now we're back. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. Today I talk about this book, Sawaki Roshi's To You. In this version, it's page 25, which is the middle of the 4th chapter. I think last time we stopped with the quote, "People in the world only understand what's useful. And where has that brought us? Nowhere." So we always ask, what's the meaning of Zazen? What is it good for? What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of this or of that? And if somebody tells us it has no meaning, well, why do it anyway? Why live in the first place? And the next quote is, "It's said that some people are trapped by their money. What is it they do with their money anyway?" Being trapped by money. Like, for example, we had in Antaji at one time, there was a person, if he had money, he would always go and buy himself alcohol. And if he didn't have money, he would go around and ask his friends to lend him money so that he would buy alcohol. So for him, money was a trap because, well, money for him was the way to feed his addiction. Or what also often is the case, well, you need money to live, to raise a family, to buy a car, to buy a house. But what is today usual in the West, if you want to buy a car, you pay only a part of that up front and you take a loan. And then every month you have to pay little by little. And hopefully you have paid back the whole price of the car before, well, the car, how do you say, is broke. So hopefully you don't have to buy the next car and still have to pay back the loan for the first car. Or when you build a house, I think almost nobody today takes all of the money out of his pockets. You take a loan, and sometimes here in Japan, you take a loan for 30 years. So when you build that house at the age of 30, maybe you have just married, the kids are coming, you know basically what you're working for the next 60 years. You have to work for the next 30 years until you're 60 and you retire. Basically, until retirement, the meaning of your work is to pay back the loan. That's, I think, another meaning of being trapped by money. And many people also, they're trapped by their student loans. The moment they get out of university, they're so deep in debt, they have no other choice than to work. And finally, once they've repaid the student loans, they have to repay the car, the house. And that's basically what's meant by being trapped in the game. Next quote. Oh, maybe Xuan-san, you want to translate before I proceed?
Yes. 然后我们上一次呢读的是，也是这本书就是上一次那句话讲的是，我们总是在问人，就是在这个世界上，人们总是希望能明白什么是有用的，然后我们知道什么是有用的，能怎么样呢？能把我们带到哪儿去呢？把我们哪儿也带不到去。然后这个是上次讲的，就是我们总是想要找到意义，就是你做这件事情什么意义，然后你想要这件事情有意义还是没有意义，我们总是想要找到事情的意义所在。其实知不知道也没有什么意义，这是我们上一次说的。然后这一次老师又读了一条，我大概其翻译一下啊，就是我们我们这些人总是被他们的钱所困住。那他们用这些钱到底能怎么样呢？到底又做了什么能怎么样呢？就是老师举一个例子，比如说像安泰寺， 他们以前有一个人哈，就是有钱的时候呢就去买酒喝，然后没有钱呢管别人借钱去买酒喝，实在是借不到，可能才不喝钱，才不喝酒了。所以你看，这就是一种被钱所困住的情况。还有我们现在社会，比如我们总是被钱所困住，像你需要买房、买车，或者是我们现在贷款，就是你可能付个首付，然后花个30年贷款，然后一直在还钱，你被这个钱所困住。或者是我们这些学生，你可能上学的时候没有钱，然后呢，贷款上学，步入社会之后一直是在还你之前借的钱，就我们总是会被钱所困住。然后这是刚才老师讲的这一条，然后老师还没说完，他还会往下讲。感谢。
What are we looking for in life? Basically, well, it's satisfaction, at least according to the Rolling Stones. And Sawaki Roshi says, the satisfaction everyone in the world looks for is followed by dissatisfaction. So, well, the Rolling Stones said you can't get it in the first place. But even if you get it, then not any. For example, a sexual encounter. It's true for delicious food you eat, but even for sorrow experiences, enlightenment. You finally think you got it. That's it, that's it. But then the next day it's gone. Why can't I keep it? Why can't I keep it? I want my enlightenment back. Later in this book, Sawaki Roshi uses this metaphor of riding downwards, or it could also be upwards, in an elevator. And the moment the elevator starts to move, you know, oh, I'm going down or I'm going up. But then after a few seconds, you're not quite sure anymore. Are we going up or down? It's only in that moment where there's a change. For example, something good happens to you. Then you feel happy. Wow, wow, wow. But then the next day, for example, that seems to be the case even when people win the lottery. They are really happy for a couple of days, maybe even weeks. But then it's business as usual. Or in the case of winning the lottery, it can also happen that it destroys people's life because everybody comes and wants their money. So they lose all their friends. And the opposite would be, for example, you have a very bad accident and from then on you have to live in a wheelchair. And for a couple of weeks, people are really down because of that. But when people did research on that, kind of how happy these people are on average after a couple of years, and they find actually it doesn't really change anything after a couple of years. People get used to their situation in the wheelchair, they're just as happy as before. And the same with the winners of the lottery. After a couple of years, in the ideal case, they're just as happy as before. So as a general rule, satisfaction is followed by dissatisfaction. The happiness that the world talks about gives way to unhappiness. You finally think you won the prize. Now I won. But then you start to compare yourself to the other winners. Maybe you move to a rich neighborhood. And at first you're happy, but you compare yourself to the other rich people. And there's always some people that are richer than you. They have a more beautiful spouse than you. They have a bigger enlightenment than you. So you're always miserable. Or for me, in my case, for example, YouTube, right now I have about 15,000 followers. So people tell me, wow, you have 15,000 followers. But usually what happens is, you see, there's somebody with 50,000, there's somebody with 100,000. And at first you're happy to have all these followers and get all the likes, but there's always somebody who has more. And you're always dissatisfied. Why can't I have 50,000? Why can't I have 100,000? And if I meet somebody who has actually 50,000 followers, all they talk about is why can't I have 500,000? Why can't I have 1 million? So what Sawaki Roshi says here seems to be a pretty how do you say, common rule, and basically that's what the Buddha meant when he said life is suffering. It doesn't mean that every day you are totally miserable, but somehow you always feel, well, that can't be all. There's still something missing here. Okay, Xuan-san, if you like, you can translate.
老师读了下面一条，我简单翻译一下，就是世界上的每一个人，所提到的幸福或满足，好像就是我们一直在追求着不满足，就是我们现在说的满足，其实是一直在追求不满足。幸福，这个世界上所谈到的幸福，其实是让你把幸福，交出去，让你找到一个方法，把你想要的幸福给出去，就是给一个你不幸福的方法。我们这个世界上所说的寻找幸福的方法，其实是让你找到一条不幸福的方法。我们总是在想到你应该寻找什么，就是在你生活当中应该得到什么，或者寻找什么。其实真正明白是，当你得到什么的时候，好像第二天就没有了。就好像我们坐禅一样，你今天可能觉得特别舒服，感觉找到禅定的感觉，然后你想要这种感觉，但是第二天的时候就没有了。就是当你刚得到的时候，其实你要面对的就是要失去它，就好像我们坐电梯一样。那个泽木老师之后，他也有几条，就是提到了坐电梯这个例子。就是就好像我们坐电梯一样，当你知道你的电梯往上走的时候，其实已经走完了。就是当你知道你在往上的时候，其实它已经不是在往上了，这个电梯已经不是在往上升了。就好像我们就好像那个人中了奖一样，它是一件特别好的事情哈，他中奖了。但是第二天呢，可能立马这种中奖的喜悦就没有了，比如说一些朋友啊，你可能就失去了，或者一些不好的事情你就失去了，你就会开始担心。所以这一条其实老师就是在说，我们这个世界上所谓的满足还有幸福，其实都是向相反的方向走的。就好像有一个人他可能一直残疾了，然后他几年之后坐了轮椅，做了一个调查，就是说其实这个人他没有什么太大变化，他坐轮椅之前的那个状态和坐他轮椅之后那个状态其实是一样的，没有因为他不能动而坐了轮椅之后显得特别幸福，也没有因为他坐上了轮椅之后就变得好像没有之前不幸福，好像没有什么变化。所以你看，当你满足了之后呢，你就是很想要比较，因为有人比你更成功，有人比你更有钱，甚至是有的人的妻子比你的妻子更漂亮。当你得到幸福的时候，好像有人比你更幸福。就像老师举了他自己的一个例子，老师他也是个小网红哈，他在那个 YouTube 上面的那个，好，就是那个粉丝也不少，粉丝量其实挺好的，我就非常羡慕老师哈。但是他说，其实当你知道，你觉得你好像现在粉丝量不错的时候，然后你一抬眼看看别人的粉丝量比你多得多的人有的是，然后你跟这些多得多的人有的是这些人呢交流的时候，你会发现他们其实也在困惑，原来有的人比他们粉丝量还要多。就是当你开始觉得有点小庆幸的时候呢，然后这种庆幸突然就会没有了。就是这种庆幸其实是朝着你这种不开心而走去的。所以你看，当你得到这个幸福或者满足的时候，其实就是你得到更多烦恼或者是更加痛苦的时候。这老师大概其刚才说的啊。
When you translate to Chinese, you pretty often use this expression "woman." Woman. What does it mean?
我们 us， 我们 we， 我们we。
We. I see. We. So. I see. Because it sounds almost like the English woman. So I was wondering. Well, probably it has nothing to do with a female person, but kind of it sounds like woman. So it means we. Okay, that's interesting. So I learned a piece of Chinese today. Thank you. Yeah, we still have a little time. So if you want to share something, if you want to ask questions, you're welcome to do so. either raise your hand or start to talk just like that. Oh, you have a beautiful calligraphy there, Britta. Yeah, any questions? Anything you would like to share? Britta, yes, please. You need to unmute yourself before you talk. We still can't hear you.
Now?
Yeah, now it's okay, yes.
Okay, so you didn't hear me?
No.
I was glad you had noticed the background.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. The second quote, I thought
it's good that you didn't have any strange pictures or on your computer.
When I shared it, yes. Only nice from the North Sea. You disturbed me. The second quote, no, that's about the satisfaction. I thought that perhaps satisfaction is the greater problem than dissatisfaction, because we always have to want more.
Yes.
And dissatisfaction stops this.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, dissatisfaction is a nice thing because there's nothing to cling to. You're not attached to it. And I mean, that's a very specific kind of dissatisfaction is pain during Zazen. And often people say, Zazen would be so much nicer without the pain. And of course, we don't sit because of the pain. It's not about inflicting pain on ourselves. But when you sit and you feel too good about yourself, for one thing, well, you might get attached to that, but also you're not really in the moment. The nice thing about pain is it gets you into the moment. It gets you into the moment. And the same can be true about dissatisfaction. When we're too satisfied with ourselves, we're always with our heads in the clouds. We're never really in the moment. So dissatisfaction can actually be quite nice, I think.
Perhaps I wouldn't call it nice, but it's in a way healing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Julian is raising his hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say about satisfaction. You know, I spent about 20 years desperately trying to get published, and I thought, when I get published, that's going to be the day. And it was a great day. But life, I found, it's not that much different, it turns out, the other side. There's this amazingly great quote by a woman called Anne Lamott. She wrote a marvelous book called Bird by Bird. And she said, if you're not happy before you're published, you sure as well won't be happy after you're published. And it's just, I have that quote written up, you know. It's so yeah, and dissatisfaction comes very quickly, doesn't it? That's good.
Yeah, probably that's also true about life after death. I mean, many Buddhists spend their time thinking about what am I gonna be in the next life, and they hope to be happy in the next life. But if you're not happy in this life, how can you expect to be happy in the next life? That's true for a lot of things. Or you marry a person that you love, and you suppose that then you're gonna be happy once you marry that person. Well, good luck with that if you're not already happy now. Marrying that other person in the hope to get happy then is probably not such a good idea. And the dream job, whatever. I mean, yeah, or going to Antaiji. Many people that came to Antaiji had this idea, I'm gonna go to this funky place there in the mountains and they meditate 2,000 hours a year. I'm gonna be happy once I'm there. Well, no. Usually, maybe for the first 1-2 weeks, people were happy, but then they realize actually it's still my old self, it's still old life, it's still dissatisfaction. Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, it's never too late to really face that dissatisfaction. So even if you're not happy before the marriage, before you go to Antaji, before you get published, and you're dissatisfied afterwards, you can still, well, then figure it out then. I mean, if you're not happy before you get published, you're not gonna be happy afterwards. Doesn't mean if you are unhappy now, you're gonna be it forever. But it means, well, now is the point of time to get to the bottom of the matter, get to the bottom of your dissatisfaction.
And it just comes back always to that business of holding both those things a little bit lighter in the hand, doesn't it? Just not gripping.
Oh, yes.
Satisfaction, not gripping dissatisfaction, just holding them more gently.
Yes. Xuan is raising her hand, please.
Hi, Elise here.
Hi.
Your sister. I was surprised to hear you mention social media followers and the lottery actually as examples. I studied economics, and so the lottery, fact I'm really familiar with. I think by this day a lot of us are. Social media, on the other hand, I thought was interesting, and it's a comment. I'm grappling with a lot of folks on social media, and I think the followers that came to mind with your comment are folks trying to monetize, which is getting more difficult day by day for a million different reasons we don't want to get into. And so there's a suffering in terms of envy, wanting more from that perspective. But I think it's so different than a good chunk of folks who are on social media who aren't trying to monetize and who aren't making any money from it, but still have that more. And social media and followers just struck me as this kind of thing where you just said you do have to take suffering and hold it more lightly. But what about in this day and age where it seems like people are constantly choosing things that just bring suffering? If you're not monetizing social media and you're on it, and all the studies show us that it makes you sad, ill, however you want to put it, it causes more suffering. I don't know, is there a chance that in this day and age, people seek more suffering to overcome it because there's something there? The social media piece and the lottery piece really, I think about that a lot with social media. I'm not really on it, and I felt a lot better after I stopped. And so it seems like this day and age, I don't know, are people seeking suffering more sometimes?
Probably yes. I mean, people are seeking suffering without realizing that they do. They think they're seeking happiness, they're pursuing happiness, but actually they're tormenting themselves and others. So probably the first step is to realize what you said. Actually, I'm happier when I'm off SNS. You talked about the difference between people that try to monetize and people that only do it as a means to kill time. But I think in the end, the fact that it makes us suffer isn't really so much different. Even people that only have their private Instagram account, if they get less thumbs up today than they did yesterday, they're not so happy about the thumbs that they got. But how come that I got less than yesterday? I uploaded today's lunch just as I uploaded yesterday's lunch. How come I get only half of the thumbs up? And people totally forget about enjoying their lunch. It's only about how much thumbs they got. And of course, if we, think about it rationally, we realize we can't always every day get more thumbs up. But even if we get the same amount, we say, it's stagnating. Why does this happen? So I think the first thing that's important, the first step needs to be to realize, actually, I'm creating suffering here for myself. And taking it more lightly, realizing it doesn't really count so much if I have more followers or less, more thumbs up or down. It's just a game, and winning and losing doesn't really count so much if I'm monetized or not. That makes it much easier. And unless you realize that, it's only creating more suffering for yourself. But because everybody's playing the game, people presume that I need to also play it. And of course, before SNS, the same thing happened with, I don't know, the job you had, the car you had, the friends you have. There's always this thought in the back of your head, how does this place me in relation to the others? Do I have a car that's better than the others, worse than the others, or am I driving the car that I'm supposed to drive in my class or whatever, with a house, with the kids? Where are my kids in school? Where are the other people's kids in school? Am I doing okay? It's just that with SNS, it has become so much more obvious what we're doing. And although it has become more obvious, it seems that few people realize what kind of game they're playing. Anything else you would like to share or ask? I think next week, Xuan, you're still in America. Are we going to do it like today? Okay, early morning in America, evening here in Asia, and around lunchtime in Europe. So if you have time, next week I want to continue with the Fukan Zazengi series that I did until July. And in 2 weeks I continue with Sawaki Roshi's quotes. So thank you all for joining. Have a nice week, and hopefully see you again next week at this time, this place. And thank you for Xuan for hosting us and translating. Bye. Thank you.